When you think about retirement, what comes to mind? Do you think about the ending of something or the beginning? Well, today's guest, Rosemary Carminati, really gives us a different way to think about retirement. In fact, there was a point when people would think about retirement as being the end of the road or a time to even slow down. However, that is not necessarily the case. Whether you are younger or more seasoned or older, retirement is something that can be beneficial for everyone, and it can open up new doors of endless possibilities. So, join me as I interview the phenomenal Rosemary Carminati, the retirement reinvention specialist, so that you can learn how to win in the second half of your game of life. Hey, y'all. Welcome back to another episode of the Power Transformation Podcast. I am your host, Alethea Felton, and I welcome all of you with such open arms, especially if you are someone who is a new listener. If you are new and you haven't yet followed or subscribed, go ahead and do that. But don't stop there. Leave a 5-star rating and write a review. All feedback is warranted and welcome because we want this podcast to be a movement and simply not a show. We are changing lives day by day, and it is because of your support that we're able to do that. I have an incredible guest today for you, and I want us to jump right into this interview because you are definitely going to gain insight, wisdom, and just some nuggets from Rosemary Carminati. So let's go ahead and begin with our affirmation. I will say the affirmation once, and then you repeat it. I have the courage to embrace change, for it leads me to new horizons. I am so excited today to have this amazing guest. It is Rosemary Carminati. I met her back in spring, April, when we served on a panel together for another podcast show. She is absolutely a guru in her field. She's going to talk to you today all about retirement, but it may not be exactly what you think. So even if you're a younger person, or older, or I don't even like to say older, seasoned and more experienced, I recommend that you stick this interview out, no doubt, because she has such a transformation story as to how she even got here. So, welcome, Rosemary.
Thank you, Alethea. I'm so happy to be here. And I
I'm
like what
happy.
I love what you said about doesn't matter what your age.
Mhm.
Thinking about retirement is important at any age.
It certainly is. And that's why, as soon as I met you, I said, I have to have her on my show because not only are you just sunshine, and I just love your personality, but also what you actually do. And so I want to jump right into this interview. And I always like to start with an icebreaker question, something fun, so that my audience can get to know you a little bit better, lighthearted. Why not? Okay. Rosemary, here is your question. If you had to choose between going to the mountains or the beach, which one would you choose and why?
Okay, it would be very easy to say both because there's so much beauty in both. I have to say, anyone that would know me would immediately say beach. And when I say beach, I mean any body of water. I feel at my most comfortable where I connect is near on or in water.
Wow. Wow. Is there a particular beach or place of water that you like to go to regularly?
Well, if I had my way, I would be going to Venice as often as
Oh,
possible. I
yeah.
love the notion that you can't get anywhere unless you use your body to walk or
Hmm.
you get on a vaporetto and, just get on the water because, gosh, that, and, I don't think there's a beach I don't like. And
Okay.
if I'm anywhere in a car and I see on the horizon to my left, to my right, in front of me, behind me, doesn't matter. If I
Mhm.
see a glimpse of blue sky and then water, I'm turning that car in that direction. That's
So
just me.
I yeah, so I'd have to agree with you. I grew up by the water, and so that's all I love and I thrive, and I love mermaids. So as strange as it is, I know you all mermaids are fictional, but I can still have imagination. But you understand what I'm saying. I I collect anything dealing with mermaids, and just the water itself is so tranquil. And so that's something good to know. Maybe we'll have to connect in the future and meet somewhere at a body of water and just enjoy the day. And it can be to me a lake, a beach, a pond, a stream, any body of water, literally. Wow.
Exactly,
Yes.
exactly. And and like I said, there's something ethereal, something that brings me
Hmm.
complete peace and calm. I do my
Hmm.
best reflection. I feel the most connected with myself, the world, the universe, whatever you want to call your higher
Hmm.
power. That all happens to me when I'm near water.
And water is a life-giving source, and that is definitely something needed, and it brings you vibrancy, just as retirement can also be a life-giving, vibrant source if planned well and executed properly. So, I want to kind of transition here and asking a simple question. You can answer this any way that you want. It doesn't have to be about job title, but if a person were to come up to you and say, "Who is Rosemary Carminati?" What would you say?
I was just talking to a friend about this. Last year, I'm a part of a woman's global networking and not networking, excuse me, connection organization. It's
Mhm,
definitely connection. And I was given this wonderful award about worldwide impact. And when I was given the award, the things that were said about me,
mhm.
I said it's almost as if I was at my own funeral. It
Oh,
was a eulogy. And
yeah.
I sat back. First, I was, as she was saying who she was giving it to, she hadn't said my name yet. And as she said the adjectives and the actions and the things, I'm thinking to myself, wow, I want to meet that woman. That
Yeah.
sounds amazing.
Oh,
And
wow.
then when she said my name, I said, you know what? I need to readdress, as I do often, my identity statement and
Mm,
look and see where are some of the things that I maybe take for granted about
mhm,
myself. And I think most of us do that. I think I know in my culture, I can talk about the United States and women, we're raised to be humble. And in saying humble, I mean, if you say anything about pride and being,
mhm,
I've accomplished something and I'm proud of it, there tends to be a little bit of a let's squash that down.
mhm,
That's not humility. Well, that's not true. This is part of who we are, and we should be proud of it. So when you ask me that question, um, I think part of the things that were said about me that I really stuck with are the fact that not only a loyal friend, I think almost everybody wants to say that, but
mhm,
that I live my life tr- in an attempt to inspire and distribute hope. I feel that there are so many people in the world that feel that sense of hopeless, loneliness, maybe a lack of self worth. And I feel part of my mission is to go out there and help people recognize their light and get
mm.
out there and shine. If
Yes.
I can uncover your light in any way, I celebrate uniqueness and I love to help people grow and empower themselves, finding it in within themselves. So I'd
Mhm.
say that's what I am as a person, besides all of the cliche mother, daughter, sister, all those wonderful things that I'm so proud that I really put a lot of effort into. I value my relationships. I'm so enriched by them. But
Yeah.
I really believe that The resilience I have too is another thing.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, someone would say, that woman, once they get to know me, boy, she's got quite the story to tell. And
Mm-hmm.
yet she
Yeah.
shows up with such optimism and love for life.
And in the short time we've known each other, I can see that love for life and I see that light. And the fact that you help others find their light, as a matter of fact, part of what your title is, if I were to segue into that, is the retirement reinvention specialist. And that right there is something where you can spark a light in someone to reinvent themselves with that. And so tell us a little bit briefly about what a retirement reinvention specialist is. What does that look like? And then let the audience know up front how they can connect with you. And then we'll get into the heart of the really compelling, transformative questions.
I love it.
Mhm,
Reinvention specialist to me is our notion of retirement for a lot of people is okay, now it's freedom and
mhm,
I'm just going to enjoy my life and it's going to be heaven on earth and this is what I waited for.
mhm,
And then the rug gets pulled out from underneath a lot of people. And so
mhm,
what I help them do is determine, how am I going to have productive longevity? Even if it means I'm going to be the best gardener in my backyard, if that's all they want for the rest of their life. But there's so many people that are living without purpose in retirement. And when you live with purpose, you add 7 years or more to your longevity. So, right there, productive longevity. I want them to live without regrets, the
mhm.
regrets that people have before they die, things like they didn't live their dreams, or they never allowed themselves to be happy, or they didn't live authentically. I help them figure that out. And then I want them to be comfortable with who they are, their authentic identity in this stage of their life, not what they were told they were supposed to be, not what they were when they did their profession. Who do you want to be, and what do you want to do for the rest of your life? Plain and simple.
I love it. I
And the
love
way to
that.
connect with
Mhm.
me,
Yeah.
simple ways. LinkedIn is my go-to. If you want to DM me on LinkedIn, I love to connect with people. I love to collaborate and partner with people on LinkedIn. I think this message is very important, so I like to share it any way I can. And then I also have a website, and on that website, you can connect with me. There's also some freebies, there's education, and the website is yourtransformationtrainer.com. And I'm sure it'll be in the show notes.
Yes.
And the LinkedIn is my name, Rosemary Carminati. And
Wow.
I've always got goodies in there and new ideas, and I'm always looking for reactions, responses, and suggestions. So
Mhm. And you definitely have a success rate in terms of helping people get to this point. And when I first met you, I told you I had never heard of anyone who does what you do. I think your niche is so important. We often hear of retirement planners through jobs and things like that, but you do more. And this is not to disparage anyone who does that. So this statement that I'm about to say is no shade against anybody, but you go deeper with the work that you do. Sometimes with the job retirement planning, it's a guideline about how much money you'll have, what your investments are like, but you go into the root and the core of what is this next chapter going to look like. And I think that is extremely important in that you just didn't wake up overnight saying, okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is not what you planned on doing from the time you started working until now. So, Rosemary, share with us your personal journey as to what actually inspired you to focus on helping others navigate the transition into retirement.
well, in a nutshell, after 30 plus years in corporate sales, I know that end of the game. Okay. I lived in the world of never enough, always the quota. What can you do for me now? Yeah, that was an hour ago. And I lived in that hamster wheel of always waiting for success and being happy when, and the craziness of it and the stress of it. In order to be successful, it takes a toll over time.
Mhm.
And through the end of my career, I had a family crisis for a good decade, which I won't get into, but what it did was make me reevaluate my life. I got into my 50s and I said, wait a minute. This is wonderful. The money's great, but is this what I want to do with the rest of my life? So I got into personal development. I started working on myself a lot more and found gurus and mentors all over the globe and really resonated with my personal partner and mentor now, Peter Sage, who worked with Tony Robbins for 15 years.
Oh,
Now,
wow.
his message is similar to so many of the folks that are out there, but it is said in such a way that I resonated with love, acceptance, faith,
Mhm.
spirituality, so many wonderful things. And the way he presented was so much in alignment with the way I feel about life and humanity and raising the significance of others. And some mentors I had were in your face and work harder and learn more. And that wasn't the route I wanted to take. I had already
Mhm.
done all that. I had the success, and you know what? I still had the stress and I knew I needed to change. So once I started become a personal development trainer, I was looking for a niche. Well, guess what? I didn't have to look very long because being the age I am, number one, I'm surrounded by people that I hear say all the time, I can't wait till I retire. Oh, when I
Oh.
retire, it's almost as if life is going to happen. That's when I'm going to begin my life.
Mhm.
And little by little, those people started becoming my clients. And then as I started researching, I went into the Amazon top sellers for retirement and I went into TED and TEDx and who's speaking about retirement. The majority is financial retirement
Mm.
planning, um, Medicare, Social Security, healthcare, travel, possibly downsizing, so real estate. But people were talking about, okay, you want to stay busy in retirement. Well, what does busy look like to each individual person? What are your real values, needs? Who do you want to surround yourself with? It's not
Mhm.
as simple as just go join a pickleball uh, league. And
Uh-huh.
that's what everybody was saying. Every time I turned around, they made it look like it was just okay, just join the senior community and then you'll be happy. Well,
Mhm.
I was meeting people left and right and then researching blue zones and
Yes.
seeing how wonderful they live their lives with productivity at their intentional productivity. They
Mhm.
decide, no one tells them you have to retire, number one, and they decide how they want to live the rest of their lives. And they live in cultures where they're admired and respected. And I can honestly say, living in the United States, that's not the case. We're a throwaway. You've served your purpose. Now go in the corner for the
Mhm.
most part.
Mhm.
So that's a part of my mission too, is to let everyone know you still have a voice. You matter. There's so much more we can accomplish. And as we said early, not waiting till you retire. And if that happens, I have clients that have retired and discovered they have all the money in the world that they need to live off of, but they're not happy. So I have those clients. But if I can touch upon people that are planning and thinking of all the logistics, but haven't thought of the potential negative side effects psychologically, that's when I really am, I'm so, I, I want to say fulfilled and I want to say empowered by the notion that this can change people's thinking. In their
Yes.
30s, I'm putting money
Yes.
away for my 401k. What am I doing? How am I thinking about what do I want to do with my living legacy, my last
Mhm.
20, 30 years of my life?
Mhm. That's true. And part of my story, I don't really talk about it a lot here on the podcast, but listeners, Rosemary knows that I retired early actually from education. at the age of 41. It's a whole story behind that. That's a separate episode in and of itself. But when I met her, I was intrigued by it because one of my mentors, when I was in the school system, did teaching, leadership, and I also ended up in HR. But I'll never forget when I was still in the classroom, one of the mentors of mine was retiring after 39 years, and she was a dynamic educator. And I'm going to shout her out. Her name is Pat Carballo, and she was one of the most phenomenal teachers I had ever seen in my life. She helped me get national board certification and everything. And I'll never forget a conversation she had. And Pat told me, she said, whenever you decide to exit from the profession, whether it's traditional retirement or early, she said, do it when you're still on top and you love it and you're not burnt out and you're not disgruntled and you don't hate your job. And that's when she chose to leave. She still genuinely loved what she did. And I think that made a world of difference because sometimes some people I know now, especially in the field of education, are downright tired. And then even talking to a former colleague recently, she said to me, oh girl, I know you're glad you had got out. I'm trying to leave too, and da 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 da. And I said, hold on, I left when I still enjoyed it. I didn't want to give her the concept that I ran away because I hated it. That's not what happened at all. And I think psychologically for me, what I experienced was when you transition from one field into my case, entrepreneurship, although I had done part-time entrepreneurship for all of those years, what was tough for me is that lack of community that I always had in teaching. And so that leads me to this question is, how would you define a fulfilling retirement? And what are some misconceptions that people might have about this phase of life that you aim to dispel?
Well, the misconception I think I already mentioned was that it's Shangri-La. Now, there
Hmm.
are people out there that are very, very happy and successful in retirement because they know what they want out of life
Hmm.
and they know themselves and they love themselves. There's so many things that we could talk about in those instances, but that's the misconception that that's going to be that carrot, that golden brass ring, whatever you call it. That, oh, when I reach that, yes, all my hard work. Eh, And that's what leads to when you were saying people in retirement, the expectations quite often are so high,
Hmm.
and then the disappointment and the stress, they think it's not going to be stressful. Well, imagine, I think I mentioned it when you and I did the panel. There's most people that are in personal development will know that we have six basic psychological needs. And some of them: certainty, uncertainty, significance, love, growth, and contribution. So imagine someone that's retiring and they spent their whole career in a significant position.
Hmm.
And I use this analogy, and now they're in Stop and Shop, and they're the same as the person schlepping groceries on either side of them. Nobody wants to know their opinion. Nobody asks them
Ooh,
their opinion.
yes.
They cannot order anyone around. So their identity is built into their significance. What if it's certainty? They knew every day. I have some people in my life that are like that. They know every day where their parking spot is, where they get their coffee, who
Yeah.
they're going to talk to. And all of a sudden, that
It's
all changed.
gone. Wow. Yes.
Or like you said, community. If the and you know what, you as an educator and anyone that's been in management, you know the way that we motivate our folks, our employees in
Hmm.
management, is different for each person. So whatever inspires or motivates is going to be different. So that person that goes to his job because he loves his community, what happens when all of his coworkers say, yeah, yeah, we'll get together, and they get together the first month, And then 6 months later, then a year later,
Yes.
then 5 years goes by. The isolation, the loneliness, the lack of love that they got from their community in their job. And research shows that not unlike when I was growing up, when there was bowling leagues and block parties, and we knew our neighbors and we
Mhm.
talked personally, not on these gadgets that we have. We
Mhm.
had personal in touch communication. What's happening now is there's such an epidemic of loneliness. So
Mhm.
people are getting that communication and that connection through their job. But when that job is over, that's one of their basic psychological needs. And if that's top of their one of their needs, again, there's something that the rug got pulled out. And what
That's
about
right.
if it's growth or contribution? Now, for me, I have a feeling it is for you too, Alethea.
Mhm.
Growth and contribution. I will, till the day I take my last breath, want to learn something new and contribute to the betterment of someone else.
Yes, you're
And
absolutely right.
and
Yeah.
what happens if you only did that in your job and you didn't think about ahead of time?
Mhm.
Part of what I do with people, if they're working and they love their job, everybody has aspects they don't like,
Of
but
course.
I ask them, let's evaluate what you love about what you do.
Mhm.
And now start to think about how will you fill those voids.
Mhm. Mm.
So simple, very simple. And then also, let's reevaluate some of the things that you don't like about your job and some of the values. I mean, I do deep dive value assessments with
Mhm.
people because there's something to be said about doing that on a regular basis. Or if you haven't done it since you were in a different transition in your life, and then you say, wow, I wonder, not only did I ever really value that, or was that something that was imposed on me? Maybe society told me that as a woman, I'm supposed to value that, or as a mother.
Mhm.
And then you look at it again and say, no, those aren't my values. And you know what? A lot of the people that I'm hanging around with right now don't have those values or have
Uh-huh.
those values. You know what I'm saying? You start reassessing the people that you surround yourself with too. As we go through these transitions, that's a big part of it too, our environment. So
Yeah.
there, I mean,
Wow.
each person. So when you say fulfillment in retirement, fulfillment is a different picture for every single person. But I think number one is living authentically in your own skin
Mhm.
and living with whatever purpose drives you.
I agree with that totally. And I think that what you started touching on in terms of just the different assessments leads me to ask you in in what other ways, since people face so many emotional challenges such as a loss of purpose and identity, on top of that, Rosemary, how do you help your clients or just people you work with in general overcome those types of feelings, but more importantly rediscover their passions, because sometimes passions can change over the years and a person might not realize what they're passionate about until someone asks them. So how do you give us an example of what you might hypothetically do to start getting a person to rediscover their passions?
Well, a simple one we do, we call it hot pen.
Mm.
And I have varying different hot pen exercises where we, with a background music, start writing down without thinking. Don't judge what you're putting on paper. Things that you like to do. What would your ideal day be like if you got up first thing in the morning? Everything from how you put your feet down on the ground
Mhm.
to what type of toothbrush you use. Put anything you want down there. And you would be shocked at how many people who have told me, and I've had friends and clients that have said, I don't know if I have any dreams.
Oh, wow.
Oh, it's
Mm.
scary. It's
That's
sad.
kinda sad.
It's
Yeah.
very sad. It's very
Yeah.
sad. But it is
Oh,
common.
that hurt my heart hearing that,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
it's true.
Yeah. I
Oh,
don't know if I have any dreams. I thought I did, but then, life squishes it down, and the people that we surround
wow.
ourselves with, and society, and the media, and
Mm.
on and on and on. But when we do hot pen exercises, the things that come out of people, and also meditating and visualization exercises.
Mm-hmm.
When we can get in touch with ourselves without outside distractions, the amount of messages that come to us. And,
Mm-hmm.
there's a way for those folks out there that are very non woo woo. I worked in corporate, so I get it. I
Yeah.
know that, there's a lot of people that are afraid of some of this stuff. But the,
Yeah.
the notion that we are so busy thinking,
Mm-hmm.
we can't differentiate between our thoughts and our feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And so often people are just being guided by their thoughts, and many of them are limiting and negative. And so
Mm-hmm.
we dig into all that. So, in a short answer, long answer to a short question, we start with unpacking the garbage
Mm.
first and
Yeah.
foremost, because you can't dream if you still have the albatross on your shoulders or the ankle weights.
Mm-hmm.
How are you going to fly? That kite can go soaring, but you got the ankle weights on. You're not going to go anywhere. So we need to take the ankle weights off, and we need to look at your limiting beliefs, the perspectives that you have,
Mm-hmm.
the trauma that you've gone through, and let's look at how we can find some gratitude in the pain that you've been through in your life. And I know
Mm.
you've had plenty of guests on, and I've heard in many podcasts, the minute you realize you are who you are because of what you've been through, and you can be grateful for that
Mm-hmm.
and actually have joy and learn the lessons that were there to teach you instead of being resentful and holding grudges. When we get rid of all that, then we start with the seeking out the dreams and the
Yeah.
vision and the clarity of focus. I've seen it so many times. It's
Mm-hmm.
completely shifting. I thought I was going to retire. You know what? I want to go back, and I have my degree. I think I want to teach, or I want to consult, or I was in the music industry. I want to start doing that again.
That's right. Yeah. And that's what, oh, I think I got this spark about you don't stop living until you're dead. I think I got that from some of the women on my mom's side of the family, specifically my late grandmother, who graduated from college at the age of 69. She started off young. I mean, she grew up in a very affluent family. She was born in the year 1919, grew up in Massachusetts. They were the first Black family in Milton, Massachusetts. And my mom grew up in Jersey, but she spent her childhood summers on Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket Island, stuff like that, right? But my grandmother went to Howard University in the late 1930s, early 1940s. Something happened in her senior year. She took all of her senior pictures, is in the senior yearbook. Something traumatic happened to her, and she dropped out during her senior year at Howard University. She was still able to have a successful career as a social worker because things were a little different then, and she could still do the work without having the official college degree, but that was always a thorn in her side. So she graduated college at age 69. And some of the other women on my mom's family who were older women were traveling the world in their 60s and 70s. And so, with that being said, it goes to show that life does not end once your career stops, and your entire being is not defined by it. What I do like is that in the past, you've drawn up a parallel between retiring professionals and athletes who retire after a successful career. Can you elaborate on that particular analogy and how that guides your work and your approach with clients?
Well, I think if you look at if you were to think of some famous athletes, I can't think of specific names.
Hmm.
The athletes that you hear about, that end up dying lonely, in pain. You look at, you hear about the obituary, you read about their death, and you say, "Wow, whatever happened to him?" And
Hmm.
my God, he made a difference. And he ended up dying either penniless or in pain. And you read those stories. And then you read the stories of the athletes who went on to consult, to coach, to mentor, to take
Hmm.
whatever they did in their career and use it as a gift to share, to contribute. I mean, quite often, child stars, athletes, they get to the pinnacle of their career. I think Olympic athletes are a common thread in this. If you have seen any of
Hmm.
these documentaries, I think Michael Phelps has one out about
Yeah.
what happens to their psychology when they're
Hmm.
done. When the goal setting, first of all, there's nothing left. They've been driven and driven and driven since maybe childhood, and now they've reached the pinnacle. They got the medals, and now what? And
Hmm.
until they can figure out what do they want out of life, was did everything I do up to this point, was it all driven by me personally? Was it what I wanted to do? Or maybe there were things that they were forced to do quite often. So
Hmm.
they got to let go of resentments and move on with that and not have regrets. But if they really thoroughly enjoyed it, how can I continue that? Because it's very simple. Again, especially in our culture, you did it great. Next, you're not on
Yeah.
Wheaties box anymore. We don't know who you are.
Mm. Hmm.
And if they surround themselves, I think, again, get rid of, if there is baggage, if there are things that they're still holding on to that they resent about their experience, they need to get rid of that. But then once they discover and say, okay, I can't do this anymore. In my case, I was a
Hmm.
gymnast. Do you think at 62 years old I'm going to go in the backyard and try a back handspring?
Of
Not
course
happening.
you will. Of course you
Not
will,
happening.
Rosemary.
I'm a realist. Instead, I'll help my grandchildren learn how to do it.
Yes.
Thank you.
I get it. Yeah.
And I'll physically walk the canals in Venice and do all the other
Uh-huh.
wonderful things I know are appropriate for my age. But I'm
I
not
get
going to
it.
sit in misery saying, and that's what happens to an athlete or to a movie star or to someone who really was successful in their career or loved their job. They
Uh-huh.
leave and the letdown and the is this all there is? Well, again, like we were saying with the athletes, the successful ones have looked at it as yet another chapter in their life.
Mhm.
Okay, now I'm
Mhm.
transitioning. I still love the sport. How can I incorporate using that love for my sport into something else in my life? Maybe I'm going
Mhm.
to be a commentator. Maybe I'm going to write a book. Whatever it is, the ones that have continued and been successful have recognized, all right, that's a chapter. Now I
Mhm.
can move on and still use those gifts. But if they're
Mhm.
still wallowing in the what used to be, I can't do it anymore, people do that in retirement. I like to say, and I've done enough interviews with retirees that are miserable, and I like to say the unhappy retiree is the one that spends most time complaining about body ailments and what they can't do anymore.
Mm.
And we
Mhm.
all know one or two of those. And do we want to be that person? If you're happy right now and you know what you want out of life and you love yourself, it probably will never happen. But if
That's
you
right.
haven't figured out all those things and you haven't allowed yourself to be curious, like I say in retirement, it's very important to me. Still have that dare to dream philosophy.
That's right.
Throughout your whole life, another saying I love is you're never too old to have a happy childhood. Ignite that spark again. Ignite that curiosity. I say be curious and keep your ambition.
Mhm.
It's who said you can't be ambitious just because they said you have to retire?
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. That's right. And there are too many people, unfortunately, whose corpses are in graves or mausoleums or have been cremated, meaning people who are dead now, who left this earth unfulfilled.
Oh,
And that is such a travesty about it. But we hear these stories of all of these transitions, but What about the success stories? Can you think of, or of, well, duh, of course you can, but share with us one or two success stories that come to your mind about clients you've worked with who've navigated retirement and are literally living their best lives.
Oh gosh. Well, I have it's funny, two ex-teachers. Okay.
Oh,
Well, you know what? I think there's something to be said about the curiosity of being a teacher. So I
uh-huh.
think that you already have it in your mindset that there's more to life. So let me
Yeah.
keep looking. And one teacher who gave up his teaching career because he had to raise his family and go out there and he became a teamster and a tradesman. And
Oh.
he was building sets for movies and doing all of this wonderful stuff. Well, he's now in his late 60s, and physically it's a challenge. And the
Mhm.
hours and the how the demands have been too much. So he was saying, well, I have to retire, I have to retire. And by the end of the 6 month program with me, he said, yeah, I'm not retiring, I'm switching careers, that's all I'm going to do. And he's going back to part-time teaching, but he's putting together programs that he wants to teach from the curriculum he used to do,
Uh-huh.
and incorporating all of the new skills. And he
Mhm.
is having, oh my God, he's working with youth and he's helping them discover some of the passions that he found.
Mhm.
It's just absolutely amazing. And, oh gosh. And then I have another one that is, well, she's gone back from, again, more corporate, and has reignited her passion for travel. And
Interesting.
she's always been the one that in her group, all of her circles, was the event planner all the time anyway. She was the one that the go-to, where should we go? Who's going to make reservations? She took care of it all. Well, now she's thriving, helping people, and especially people that are inexperienced travelers. She's helping them ignite that passion and take away the fear of it
Yeah.
because of so much she learned through other careers. So the things that we learn, the things I learned in corporate sales, I mean, I would not trade that for anything. It helps me as an entrepreneur. It helps me with my speaking, obviously, but it
Mhm.
also shows me what I don't want to do.
Yes, exactly.
You know
Yeah.
what? I don't want, we have a philosophy or a teaching that we talk about where we have different consciousness that we live by. There's victim consciousness, which we call everything happens to me. Then
Mhm.
there's a consciousness where we're the getters, and that's by me. Well, I lived in 30 years of by me, of I've got to make this happen. This is in my control if I work harder. All of that nonsense that I
Mhm.
did. Yes, I was successful, but no one can sustain that. And because stress is basically expectation, the world's not meeting your expectations. When we set up a reality and it doesn't happen, that's where stress comes from. We have our expectations. And in sales, the expectations are always, it's got to be the bar is lifted every time. So when
Mhm.
I decided to get out of that and get into the consciousness of through me, and what that is having faith, your
That's
faith in your higher power, in yourself, and in those you choose to surround yourself with.
mhm.
Because we get to choose that too. We do have control in our lives. We have control over our intentions, our emotions, our actions, and who we surround ourselves with.
Mhm.
And when I got to
Mhm.
that point, and so I've seen a multitude of people with that. And then I also have a retiree who decided he had been an adoptive parent for years and years. And now he worked for a very big submarine manufacturing plant in
Oh.
Electric Boat, it's called. He was
Uh-huh.
upper mucky muck. He decided he started running a fundraiser, a charitable organization. And what
Oh.
he does is so fulfilling in all those psychological needs that he discovered were the most important thing to him.
Mhm.
He is blissful I mean, every time I talk to him, the smile is bigger. And he is
Mm,
just finding so much joy in every day because he
mhm.
realized that was the most important thing to him. He didn't
Wow.
have to worry about paying the bills anymore. So now he could live authentically in this and not worry about, well, why aren't you doing this? Why? No, this is what he wants to do. And as
That's
I said in
right.
the beginning, if your purpose in retirement or semi-retirement is solely to be the best grandpa you could ever be because you couldn't be there for your children,
Mm-hmm.
God bless you, then you're going to live fulfilled and you're going to not go to your deathbed with regrets.
Wow. Wow. And you mentioned even in all this, while you work with individual clients, you mentioned the importance of who you surround yourself with, even in this new chapter of life. And so share with us some of the importance of community and social support in this process of redefining retirement. And what strategies, maybe two or three, would you give to someone trying to build a supportive network? Because sometimes, even maybe those closest to us might not always understand. I didn't have that problem with my inner circle, but sometimes people who've worked for years and years and years, it takes adjustments on everyone's part that this is their new normal. So, how do you help clients with that, and what tips can you share?
Well, if you think about it, nobody taught us in school how to socialize.
No.
We figured it out the hard way, some of us, and then amongst bullying and not
Mm,
getting asked to the dance, and this one won't talk to me, and all of that other crazy stuff that people go through.
mhm,
And well, I'd say the first thing I do when I talk to any client, whether they're considering retirement or not, is to assess the folks that you surround yourself with now. And it's not that you're going to look at it as an elitist point of view. It's, are they in my are they like-minded? Do we have the same values? I think it probably became a lot easier for some of us in the United States with the political craziness we've been having in the last 8 to 10 years. I think some of us have reevaluated associations, and not because of political leanings, but
mhm,
because of the severity and I want to say some people got actually quite mean and exclusive in their thoughts. And
mhm.
those are the people I decided, okay, there's going to be distance now. So if you start looking at the people that you surround yourself with, the people that I like to say you want to weed out, maybe when you leave them every time you feel a little worse about yourself. Have you noticed
Mm,
that? We have
mm.
friends in our lives or coworkers, people like that, that always seem to have that passive aggressive way to make you question your dreams, your aspirations. So maybe those are the people that become just acquaintances and not friends. Or there's people that people ask me all the time, what about your relatives? Well, if you have those relatives that do that to you, you limit your exposure. You still
Mhm.
love them. You can't choose your family. You love them, but you lower your expectations too. Am I expecting to get blood from a stone? Am I expecting a fish to fly? If I know when I pick up the phone and this person is not going to celebrate what I'm talking about, I'm not going to choose to share that with them. Very
Yeah.
simple. I'll go to that friend that is my ride or die, who I know loves me for me, and that's fine. So when we start assessing, weeding out, limiting exposure, and then start seeking and searching, and we do have ways in our world now, globally. It's absolutely amazing the communities that you can get involved in globally through Facebook, through the internet. I mean, LinkedIn has a,
Yes.
a multitude of,
LinkedIn is a treasure trove. People
yes,
people sleep on LinkedIn. They don't realize, especially if you're in this world professionally, LinkedIn, if you know how to use it right, it works wonders. I mean, that's how You and I met through
Right.
people we met through LinkedIn.
And think about the enrichment you can find in your life. So this is obviously this is not personal connection,
Yes.
physical connection,
Hmm.
but you can have also physical connection. It takes work. And that's why people do come to me for things like that, because no one ever taught us how to connect and network, especially at a later age in life.
Hmm.
Look what happened after COVID. People didn't know how to. They go to a networking function and you're like,
Oh,
I don't know what to say.
but you just triggered something in me is that and you can ask clients of yours who are former teachers, educators are in a bubble. We really are in a bubble. And that was the toughest part for me. My mentor, John Narrell,
Mhm.
forced me to start networking with people even before I left my career, right? And it was so uncomfortable for me how he forced me to network on LinkedIn specifically, and I had to reach out to all of these people who had never been principals or teachers. And although I had done part-time entrepreneurship, it was still different. And you have hit the nail on the head with that, is that networking can be so undaunting. And I'm so comfortable now with it here over a
Right.
year later. Yeah,
But imagine
definitely.
now, I know you well enough to know that you're confident and you love yourself.
Hmm.
Imagine someone who's still struggling with all those limiting beliefs. They
Wow.
they they can't put their hand out and reach out and say, I'd like to get to know you and meet you.
That's
So
right.
so those are the things that we work through. First of all, again, back to those ankle weights. Once you get rid of all those things and you appreciate yourself for who you are, that
Oh.
becomes a little more comfortable. But nobody said, first of all, life is a comfort centric experience. So
Hmm.
these are the things that we have to go through, unfortunately, that are uncomfortable and challenging. But growth doesn't come without discomfort.
That's
It
right.
just doesn't happen. So these are unfortunately, but if you already have two or three people in your support group, you had John, if you have me or someone else, a good friend, someone that can guide you through the process of starting to get out there and open
Hmm.
up your social circle. You can do it through LinkedIn, you can do it through personally.
Yeah.
And what I also love is the old Abraham Hicks way of
Oh,
thinking.
yes, Abraham
build
Hicks.
your
Yeah.
build your boardroom.
Yeah.
Start finding your mentors, whether they're fictional, whether they're deceased, or whether they're alive now. Maybe it's Jay Shetty, maybe it's Oprah, maybe it's, I don't know, whoever it
Mhm.
is, you start following them. um
Louise Hay,
yeah,
for
Louise
me,
Hay. Oh,
yeah.
yeah, Brene Brown. There's so
Yes.
many out there. And
Yeah.
you start listening to what their guidance is and developing some of that in
Oh,
yourself.
so good.
And
Yeah.
it's almost as if, the old what would Jesus do? Well, you
Uh-huh.
start to say, whoever your idol is. I mean,
Yeah.
for me, it's, Mother Teresa, Gandhi.
Uh-huh.
What would, I mean, I even wear a ring that says, be the change you wish to see in the world. And
Oh.
so when I go to make a decision, that's part of what I think about is, okay, is this making a difference just for me? Is this just a selfish thing?
Mhm.
Is this necessary, or will it maybe affect someone in a negative way? So maybe I shouldn't do it. So when you
Mhm.
find that boardroom or your guides, people that, there's so many different ways to do this,
That's right.
but you can have fictional, you can have deceased, you can have your grandmother who's no longer with you, but the
Yep. Yes.
philosophy is there. Her words are ingrained, her feelings, everything. It's in your gut and in your heart. My sister passed away last year. There are more
Mm.
times that things come out of me or I make a decision where I go, I get it. I look up to the
Oh,
sky and I say, I know you just worked right through me.
that's right.
I don't even remember what I said, but I know it was from her because she's
Mm.
such a big part of me. So when we
Wow.
start developing our environment and making it healthy and making it with our values, what we want to do and accomplish and who we want to be. Because
Mm.
when we were talking about the regrets in death, other than the fact that, the loneliness and that I didn't really enjoy my happiness because I was waiting for the when
Mhm.
I get the promotion, when I get married, when I get divorced, when I lose weight, instead of being happy now. But the other one is the authenticity. I know people that are sleepwalking through life
They
that
sure are.
say one thing and feel another.
That's right. Yeah, they certainly are. They
They're
certainly are.
afraid. They're
Uh-huh.
afraid. They're afraid they don't deserve what they want out of life,
Mhm.
or they're afraid of what other people will think of them. There's
Mhm.
so many different reasons why people are not being themselves.
You're right. And I had people more than one. Of course, I'd never publicly call them out, but especially when I was transitioning out of education, I had people who were people that I looked up to who told me one on one, I could never do what you do, and I so want to do it.
Right.
I admire you so much for it, but I'm not brave enough to. And to me, it wasn't a matter of bravery. It was a matter, yes, faith, but it was a matter of, yes, I planned for it too, which is important. And I purposely didn't ask you questions about the financial aspects of it. I did that on purpose because I wanted people to see and get out of this so many other aspects.
Hmm.
And if a person's curious about that, I want them to contact you. So yeah, right. But people who were saying that they just didn't have the courage to do what I was doing. And to me, it was second nature. It was second nature. And it was so transformative for me. And this chapter of my life, I'm not going to sit here and act like it's been easy, but I have too much drive to give up on it. And I'm getting closer and closer to where I'm trying to be. So I have two final questions because I want to be respectful of your time. But what have you learned the most about yourself since becoming this retirement reinvention guru? Yes, I'm calling you a guru. You don't have to call yourself that, but I am. But what have you, Rosemary, learned the most about you?
I'd say, as much as I have always been called Pollyanna and that I'm Miss Optimist, I'd say my pure absolute joy for life has been expanded and enriched by clients and the people I, again, surround myself with. I
Mm,
have discovered, the older I get and the more I learn from students and clients, because boy, the communities I'm in and in the programs that I teach, they teach each other and they teach me every session.
mhm,
I walk away with wow, light bulb moments. And I think that the idea is that every day I look at now is such a gift. And I look at each person. I've always had the notion that you are good unless proven otherwise. I've always, and I've gotten kicked in the face plenty of times because of that.
mhm,
And I'll still be like that. It doesn't matter. But
mhm,
now I really relish the differences. I enjoy discovering not
mhm,
only our similarities, but that different viewpoint you give me that opens
mhm,
up yet another. Whoa, I live in a question. Everything is curiosity. And that just, the growth. Yeah. And what that leads to is, in the last couple of years through all this process, I've had more than one really bad blank hits the fan type of situation.
mhm,
And I brush it off as if it was a mosquito bite
mm.
because there's so much more. Plus, I know that I'm learning from it, but there's so much more golden nuggets that I experience every day. It's it's annoying to be around me sometimes. There's
I feel it too about
you
me.
know, that saying misery loves company? It should be reframed, and my mentor says this: miserable people love miserable company.
You're
Because
right.
misery doesn't like you and me, because after 5 minutes, they don't get what they want from us.
Oh my
Because we
gosh.
turn the picture around and say, have you considered? And they go, oh, you're not going to let me complain all day.
My look, girl, this is so funny. My boyfriend said to me just last night, it was so funny to me. I had given him some encouragement, I guess. I don't even know what I said, But he said, girl, you can make the devil himself have a good day. It's like,
This is why we connected, honey. This was not a this was not a
it
coincidence.
wasn't. When he said, I never had anybody tell me that, I laughed and laughed. He said, you can
Yep.
make the devil himself have a good day. And in terms of just a closing word, what words of wisdom would you give to someone who may be in the state of their life or the point where they're approaching retirement or really considering it, yet they feel so apprehensive about this life transition?
Hmm. Let's try to keep this as brief as possible.
Mhm,
We would really delve into what the apprehension is about
mhm,
because it can be everything from I'm afraid of what's coming up or I'm afraid of what I'm giving up. So
mhm,
it could be two different things. I'm afraid I will have no value, or I'm afraid, yeah, there's just way too many things. But so we would delve into the apprehension. And then once we do that, we would also look at, I think you and I, either we said it earlier in this recording or privately, we would look at what is it that you love about what you're doing?
mhm,
And let's figure out how you're going to replicate that. How are you going to fill in those voids? What are the things you're going to do? You can even say that to somebody who's got empty nest syndrome. You know your children are going to grow. They're going to leave the house.
mhm,
How are you going to fill your time, your activities, that love that you get, that need or that need to be needed, all of those things? Well, same thing with your retirement. Let's look at your basic psychological needs. What are your preferences? What really drives you? And then what are you getting from your position now? And how do you think you're going to replace that? Because the other thing I like to say to everybody too, whether you're thinking of retiring, a transition, anything in your life, too many folks are waiting for their happiness and they're expecting their outer world to provide that. Until we have happiness in our inner world, the outer world is never going to fulfill you. It's never going
mhm,
to. Always going to be an empty void. So why not strive to be happy now? And
mm.
whatever your situation is. And the sentence or the phrase that I say all the time, and people go, "Oh, I never thought of that." You can never run out of now. We're all time management stress, gotta fit, gotta. What about just take a breath and enjoy now?
And with that, Rosemary Carminati, you have been an incredible guest. I already knew it, but thank you for just coming here today, offering such a dynamic perspective about retirement and just life in general. Even if a person is in their 20s, they can get something out of this because you are definitely inspirational. Thank you for just your heart, for your time, and for coming on the Power Transformation Podcast. It has been an honor and a joy having you, and I will definitely, of course, keep in touch with you.
Oh, I look forward to it. And thank you so much, Alethea. I feel the same way. This was meant to be. We were meant to meet each other and have this conversation. And that's all it was two girls talking.
Indeed, it was. Wasn't Rosemary the absolute best? And she is the guru when it comes to all things retirement. So please connect with her, regardless of where you are in your career, or even if you're already retired and you simply want further insight, contact Rosemary. She will lead you down the right road and the right path. And she has the greatest personality and spirit. And this is going to be a decision you will not regret. So reach out to her as soon as you can. And I thank you for listening to yet another episode of the Power Transformation Podcast. Spread this message. Let everybody know about it. It's because of you that we are in the top 5% of podcasts globally. And we want to keep that going so that we can end up being in the top 1%, so that this podcast reaches so many people and households across the world, across age groups, socioeconomic statuses, race, religion. We all have power within ourselves to transform not only our lives, but the lives of others. Let's go ahead and close out with our affirmation. I'll say it and then you repeat it. I have the courage to embrace change, for it leads me to new horizons. If you enjoyed today's show, then you don't want to miss an episode. So follow the Power Transformation Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you usually listen, and remember to rate and review. I also invite you to connect with me on social media at Alethea Felton. That's at ALETHEAFELTON. Until next time, remember to be good to yourself and to others.